Hello and welcome to the Listening Post's unboxing channel on YouTube. Today I'm unboxing NAD's brand new Master Series M10 V3. They're just add speakers, compact, brilliant sounding, streaming, integrated amplifier. Again, V2, there's obviously two other iterations. We'll dive into some of the differences when we get the opportunity to see the product in the flesh, but obviously better software, better DACs on board, the usual improvements that you would expect, and some wonderful new features as well. Actually touching on that, Dirac with bass management and presets for Dirac as well, so acoustics in the room can be sort of dialed in as a preset. Curtains open, curtains closed, good example. So that's awesome to see. A few other iterations, but again, let's not muck around. Let's have a look at this amazing, awesome new product. So, packaging, shipped in an outer carton. So this is kind of like a freight carton. Throw your labels all over it, treat it like death. It'll still preserve the goodness that's inside. In fact, with that we've got some freight labels. Model and serial number and scannable information off one end, along with some iterations associated with serial number and its model. All of the usual things associated with compliances, and then a repeat of the scannable information. Just the Master Series logo on one side. These are very straightforward to open. For obvious reasons, they are sealed closed with some basic packing tape. Look, always be careful not to dive too deep with a craft knife when you're opening these things. Nevertheless, once you open the boring brown carton, you get to start to look at the appeal of this product from a Master Series perspective. And you realise that this boring brown carton has simply been there so that when you receive it, you can throw it in the recycling and have the original high-end packaging associated with a product of this quality kept in the cupboard or whatever you might need. So, the black and gold NAD Master Series M10 V3. Get rid of that. Now, of course, look, as we pause, please, it's got BluOS on board. Clearly, this is a fully streaming amplifier. So it supports Spotify, Tidal, Deezer, Qbuzz, iHeartRadio. Oh, you can jam a USB in the back and make it available to other BluOS devices. It's a really well thought out piece of kit. Again, the elegance of the packaging is vastly improved. We see the M10 V3 logo in gold, and then again an emulation of the scannable product and serial number information, along with some basic compliance and a hint to some of the features that we will see. Opening this is very straightforward. It's sealed closed with a sort of a circular sticky label, and at that point it starts to open with a little flap. Again, a sense of elegance in the packaging as we see an emulation of the gold and black with a little bit more detail. Central in the foam that we've just seen is a gold NAD USB marked M10 V3 on one side. Now this can be utilised for software updating if you're not on the network. It can obviously be a freebie as far as downloading some music to it and preserving it, and there's probably an elaborate user manual and all those types of things on it. Obviously foam. Then we've got some of the instructions and other things along those lines. It invites you to obviously use Dirac as optional. In fact, look, loosely, an amplifier needs to stand on its own 2 feet, regardless of its ability to add room correction or speaker correction. Look, for obvious reasons, it has to stand alone rather than the complexity of potentially doing a room treatment or setup associated with a microphone. There's some basic setup information, connection guide, power cord goes here, that kind of stuff. It doesn't dive too deep. Okay. Then we've got closed cell foam that starts to fully protect this unit in transit, and you can see it's cut perfectly for the size and shape of the M10. The product itself is protected in a gorgeous bag. It's a semi-soft bag with a pull tag. We see as we put it off to one side the rest of the packaging. There's a desiccant bag to ensure that it's kept dry in transit. And then lifting out the closed-cell foam and getting rid of it, we see the full accessories in the bottom. So they were sitting there. Now, the accessories include a little polish cloth, the New Zealand IEC power cord, a Dirac. Now, actually, I'll open this because if you're going to dive into Dirac, it's important to understand that with a product that doesn't have a dedicated mic input, there's a USB-based interface, I guess. So NAD have included the USB to 3.5mm interface adapter, and they've included the Dirac's microphone along with a really long cable. Between the software of Dirac and some equalization software they have on board, this relatively modest priced quality microphone can actually have a flat response and be brilliant from a feature perspective. So it's good to see. Now, new to the range is the last accessory we drag out. Actually, here's the batteries, they're AAA's. Okay, got rid of that. Now, new to the range is a brand new remote control. And instead of having a remote that's across all the range, NAD have introduced with this new version a gorgeous heavyweight remote control, the BC1. Now it incorporates a number of distinct features, and again we're going to touch on that when we start to see this in the flesh. The first is a little bit more elegance rather than the plastic previous remote controls. But the second is the fact that it's got numerical keys associated with many of the presets that you can do within the BluOS streaming. So for example, preset 1 might be the news stream from BBC World Live. Preset 2 might be your favourite Spotify playlist, and preset 3 could be the kids, whatever it might be. It's brilliant to see that they've incorporated those in the remote control itself. We'll also see that the play, stop, pause, up, down, volume, all of those things you would expect, centrally located and really, really easy to operate with the thumb. You've got the EQ settings. Now that associates with the Dirac settings, and you scroll through them, by the way. You've got the brightness of the display to change, mute, power and volume up and down. So it's lovely to see a very comprehensive remote now included. Obviously, without further ado, we're going to have a look at the product itself. As I mentioned, this is a semi-soft cloth bag with a lovely texture to the inside, designed to preserve this product's polish in transit. Opening it up, get rid of the bag, we see this brilliant compact little amplifier. Now the first thing to understand is that this is a mighty little product. It's it's 2 by 100 watts. It peaks at 160 or something to give you an understanding of its dynamic power. That sort of peak loading when that bass kick drum comes through and needs a little bit more control. But it highlights just how brilliant this is from an amplification perspective. It takes NAD's Master Series hybrid N-core amplifier and delivers it in spades into this lovely compact product. Now for obvious reasons it's protected with a little bit of plastic for now, so we're going to open that. Nevertheless, just looking for those joints and removing the plastic wrap is relatively straightforward. Off to one side you've got one of those classic tabs, and then carefully roll it round. Then both the top and the front, and I love doing this, has a protective film, just like your laptop computer or something like that. This has a full 7-inch touch screen and, as with the previous model, a brilliant full colour display. In fact, look, as always, hang around for the photographs. You'll see this light up and some of the setups and other things that I'll take photographs of. Leaning it forward, you see a couple of things. Firstly, the heat sinks associated with the amplification, which is brilliantly passively cooled with just little slots rather than something large. The NAD M10 V3 logo, you can see it's almost square, and the side of the amplifier is also part of the heatsink. And briefly we'll pause to see that there's ventilation on the bottom to allow cool air to pass up. Elaborate rubber is added along the bottom to ensure it doesn't slip on the surface, and look, there's a MAC address and a scannable thing for the serial number on it as well. It's at the back we see how fully featured the unit is. Despite its extremely compact nature, they haven't forgotten about some of the big things that you will use. So firstly, in a departure from the version 2, they've introduced a phono input. They've done a little bit of a rework of the back of the unit to be able to fit it. In the previous one, the coax used to be over here, so they've also sort of shunted things over and stacked the digitals on top of each other. So, excellent moving magnet, phono preamp. It won't suit moving coil, but then if you've got a moving coil, you're either going to use an external phono preamp, or maybe not this type of product because you're going to have a bigger, more elaborate system perhaps. It's got triggers out and IR in for the ability to control this remotely, as well as control other things in a cascade. The New Zealand IEC power cord, of course. Nevertheless, you've got a line in, simply marked as line in. Then you've got a pre-out. Now this is really useful, again, because this could become part of a larger system if you wanted it to. The streaming capabilities of this and the quality of this from a streaming source means you could potentially bundle this up with a number of other products that could be running other parts of your house, perhaps outdoor speakers or something similar. Then we've got the two subwoofer outputs. Now these are independently managed for a number of reasons, both within Dirac and the bass management software it now runs, but also the ability to use a 4.0, so 4 speakers. This would drive the fronts, but by using the HDMI in, it can decode Dolby Digital and deliver a pseudo center speaker to the front, quote, 3 speakers. If you introduce a BluOS product, perhaps their wireless rears, you can introduce a 4.0 setup. The dual subwoofers allow you to run 4.1 or even 4.2 with dual subwoofers, and it's brilliant to see that flexibility and brilliant to see that they've supported it with excellent management of those features on board. Again, we've got the coax and optical I alluded to earlier, these traditional digital ins, and again the HDMI that I've touched on. The HDMI has a full e-arc audio return built in. It's not an output, it's an input from your television, which is probably one of the most useful ways of doing it. We've got a basic service reset kind of function, network input, megabit per second kind of stuff, and then a USB. The USB will happily share its content with other BluOS devices if you need to. We've got a traditional USB micro, simply for servicing and software updating, and then a standby button at the back. Tapping it brings it to an on position, pushing and holding shuts it off. Beneath all of those inputs and the myriad of features, we have traditional, very good quality binding posts. It is worth mentioning that the version 3 no longer offers a featureless feature, which was the bridge mono mode that the previous model had. I'll be honest, I've never sold one of these into an environment that has had the requirement of bridging the unit mono, so probably internationally that's a very similar thing, hence why they've dropped that as a feature. The binding posts are a good quality 5-way binding post, clearly labelled left and right, clearly labelled red and black. So, there we have it. Stunning new Master Series M10 V3. Excellent DAC, 24-bit 192, similar touchscreen to previous, moving magnet phono stage as an upgrade, Dirac Live and the feature set associated with the equalization as an upgrade, all in a brilliant, stunningly looking package. So there we have it. NAD's Master Series M10 V3, unboxed here at the listening post in Christchurch, New Zealand. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more, subscribe to our channel.